Hi everybody, Nate Pace here. So, recently, I think it was like maybe a couple of weeks ago or so, Netflix announced that Atypical, a show on Netflix that follows a person on the spectrum with their family and such, was going to get a second season. And, well, that surprised the hell out of me because I'm not much of a fan of the show Atypical. And when I heard this was going to be getting a second season, I was very surprised, and I tried watching it again, and I couldn't get past it. I still hate it. It's not that I hate it, it's more like I'm very disappointed. Yeah, disappointed. That's kind of the word. Because when there are some stuff that with Atypical that they do right. I mean, the family aspects with it, it's great. Like, how the whole family's supportive with the main character and helping him out with his Aspergers and stuff. That part is great. The sister is probably one of the better characters in that show, because she just flats out, like, punches a bully in the face, and I thought that was pretty cool. But with, like, the main portrayal of, like, the main dude with Aspergers and such, it just annoyed me, because it's the same portrayal of Aspergers I've seen in, like, dozens of shows and movies, and sometimes in books and stuff. It's the same kind of, like, situation. Like, how do I phrase this without, like, sounding like a jerk? Like, they have, like, the same speech that they don't understand people, that understanding emotions and, like, all that stuff, flashing kind of, like, very exaggerated expressions and stuff to kind of get across of what they're trying to, like, show on their face and stuff. They quote things that they're interested in, helps them kind of relate to the world. Like, every half an hour they always, like, ask, like, these things to, like, when they're, like, confused in social situations and stuff. And yes, that's a part of Asperger's that happens, but when I see, like, the same portrayal of Asperger's in any fictional media that I see, it gets annoying and draining really, really fast. It's kind of ridiculous, because the Asperger spectrum is very much it is a spectrum. Everyone with Asperger's is different. Some people are going to be more likely higher with Asperger's, and some people can be more lower of Asperger's. And some people just, like, be in between, because it's no person with Asperger's, and I think this is just kind of like my opinion, so is going to ever be, like, the same. I think they'll be kind of like the same area and such, but I think with, like, all the tools and stuff, they'll understand levels of things differently or so. But it's just my thought process and such. But that kind of got me thinking with, like, Atypical and such, like how other shows with confirmed characters of Asperger's, they always portray them just the exact same. And that always gets me a lot. That always annoys me to a full extent, because it's either it's almost like having Asperger's, so it's kind of like becoming like an archetype character and so, and all that, you know? Like, you know, the archetype character is like the dork, the nerd, all that stuff, and then it's just kind of like having, like, people with, like, Asperger's and such are like, alright, so let's just have it like this and such, and that'll be like, cool, all that jazz. And as a writer myself, I always get, like, confused. Like, you're a writer, so you should be able to, like, treat them, you should be able to, like, do better with this kind of stuff and all that. Because I think, like, the most problem with, like, the characters with, like, who are confirmed with Asperger and such and shows and stuff is that they don't treat them like people. Like, all the character is to like the audience and such with Asperger's and such. It's like, I have Asperger's, that is all there is to me and all that. Like it's like the walking definition of like a person with Asperger's and stuff. And that always annoys me very greatly. Cuz when I want to see a portrayal of like someone on the spectrum and such, I just want them seen as like a person. A person just kind of like day to day, like, oh, hey, this is me. By the way, I had like this little thing called Asperger's. It's sometimes clearly shows up in certain situations. Sometimes it doesn't, but hey, that's kind of like how anything else goes. And I don't know. I always think that should be kind of like pretty easy with like writers to do and such, since I'm rambling here. I don't really have like a set note of scripts. This has just been kind of like boiling in my mind, so I apologize if it seems like I'm very lost track of thoughts and stuff, but but yeah, it's always annoying to see that, because those are only like, they always seem bound to like the set rules of like Asperger's and such with writers, with shows and everything, and I'm like, there's so much more you can do with that. I mean, yeah, there are certain things that people on the spectrum kind of like can't understand, but there are stuff with like the tools people have, and some who are just kind of like lower on the spectrum, it kind of comes a little more easier to them, but they still struggle with things. They want to be people, but they also have like other desires too, and such. You can't keep showing off portrayals of like these same walking definitions and not like give them a whole personality and soul. Relying too much on like the same iteration just gets annoying, and it really makes me sad, because I don't want to like watch a show with a person that has like the spectrum and so, and be kind of like, oh, that's the same kind of like archetype and like the same situations. Okay, well, that feels pretty nice towards a person myself with the spectrum and so yeah. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, like characters who aren't confirmed to be on the spectrum, but they're always suspected, those are like one of the best iterations of like people on the spectrum. Like Temper Sprint from Bones. She shares like a lot of qualities on the people on the spectrum and such, but as like the seasons go on, you see a lot more of her personality. That she's like a cool, kick-ass character. She's really awesome. People, Sheldon and Amy from Big Bang Theory, those guys are like, again, kind of like somewhere like in the same kind of like level, but kind of like win different levels and such. Those guys are pretty cool. Tina Belcher from Bob's Burger. I freaking love Tina. She shares like the whole kind of more like awkwardness and like not really fully understanding with things, but I just freaking love her, and she's just cool, and I totally wish all those characters would be like confirmed to be on the spectrum, because those would become like the examples that I would want more people to kind of like go by when trying to show characters on the spectrum of Asperger's in like any medium and all that, you know, like with books, TV shows, comic books, anything. Hell, even some anime has like some great examples. Well, possibly some great examples. I don't know, anime and manga, it comes a little bit different, like people on the spectrum, so they're kind of like, again, they kind of like fall in the archetype called kureis, or they don't really kind of like understand social situations, and they're very like monotone, kind of like very kind of like merp. But I think there are some examples of like that, like Jotaro Kujo from JoJo Bizarre Adventure. He's kind of like been theorized on to be on the Asperger's spectrum, and if that's ever be confirmed, I would love that, because he's a total badass. Krona from Soul Eater, I've always kind of like thought he'd be somewhere on the spectrum and so, but that would be kind of awkward because the whole Medusa thing, so hell, I think Elle from Death Note would probably be like the best example maybe of that, I don't know, but like I said, any character like that's not confirmed flat out to be on the spectrum usually are probably the best iterations. And I'm not saying like that's that case for all. I mean, there are a few shows and movies that do it like pretty well. Like they kind of like show off the whole field of spectrum for like Aspergers and such. Like Parenthood with like Max and stuff. That's a really great interpretation of Aspergers because again they treat him like a person. When they first introduced him to stuff, they just treat him flat out like a normal kid, just a little bit more quirk and all. And it's gradually kind of like shows up that there's more things in the line with him and such that totally says, okay, there might be some few things that's kind of like hindering him in a few places. So, and when they get confirmed, he's still treated just like any normal person and stuff, and the same desire and goals. And that's what I like about that. I really think that should be kind of like more, kind of like an example, but then just kind of like build upon that and such. Yeah. And for like movie, Mozart and the Whale, that one I still think it's really cool because it kind of shows off, again, like the two extremes of like Asperger's. You got someone who's very high level of the spectrum, so, and you got someone who's kind of very low level, but still there and such. It's a about a couple who are on the Asperger spectrum, and they are dating and such, and you really get to see like the both sides, and it's like really cool and it's really beautiful, and it makes my heart smile every time I watch it. I do really recommend you guys check that out. But yeah, that's kind of like my thought process with a lot of like popular media's portrayal of Asperger's. And in a day and age where we're like shouting out for like diversity and like stronger characters, I kind of wish that it'd be kind of like we get a little bit more, well, I kind of wish that some writers out there, if you're watching this, will kind of like put like that same strong fortitude for like diverse, strong characters with like autism, Asperger's, or any like mental stuff, and just treat them as a person and make them a really cool, great, interesting character and such. And I'm not saying that like it's kind of like, if it's like, oh, you think that group of people not getting enough like great diverse characters bad, check out like all this. No, I just kind of like want that Asperger stuff to be kind of like get in the party, kind of get in the group. I hope I'm phrasing that right and not sound like a jerk about that. I really hope. Because Lord, that would just be a hellstorm in the comments section. God, that'd be a nightmare for my anxiety. But yeah, that's what I kind of like really want for more, like in any like fiction stuff, and not like the whole Sugar Moda Glee thing where it's just kind of like treated as more kind of like a joke and such, because that's not good. And anywho, I hope that what I've been kind of rambling here today makes some sense for anyone watching this and stuff. And I just kind of like, it's been kind of like bugging on my mind for a while as I've been looking through a lot more shows with like Asperger's and such. And yeah, I hope all of you guys have a great day. If you're watching this, thank you so much for watching, and like it. If you like it, if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down and such. Just subscribe. I'm trying to like do more videos. I know I have a really shit schedule of like uploading stuff, but I'm trying. I'm really trying, because most of my energy is going to like keep getting myself better with my anxiety and my depression and stuff. So I'll be trying a little bit more doing these kind of like vlog things. And if you got like some suggestions of like what I said, or like just want to like add to the topic and such, please leave a comment and such. And have a great day, everybody. Adios.